So my article inspired my interview questions because my article was about how different cultures and like backgrounds differ, like the motives for people using social media. So it did a study between Americans and Koreans and how like their different cultures affected the way they use social media. So it made me think maybe there is a difference in the way that people use social media based on how they were brought up and what their motives are to be using it. So I just based my questions around just my thoughts on, what is it like if you did grow up in a different background? And when you do go on social media, what is your motive and what are you using it for? And because I know that like when I go on, I use it for like entertainment and usually when I'm bored or just to keep up with, I guess, the world. And I was wondering if it'd just be different for anybody else in a different country. The interview went pretty well. It was pretty quick and fast. The questions were easy to answer, I think, and I got good feedback from her. She was pretty nice about everything, and pretty much she gave her opinion. It was kind of not what I expected. I thought it may be a little different, but her views on like social media and how like her upbringing, I guess, or her culture, like, influenced her. It's kind of like the same to us. So that was like a little surprising for me. And then I guess one thing we had in common was that probably we use social media most like when we're bored, like not for really any like particular reason, probably just because we're bored. And that another thing in common was that we like to use Instagram. So. Okay. Hi, I'm Myles, and this is Isla, and she's from Argentina, and I'm gonna ask her a couple questions. Okay, so first question is, how has the culture you've grown up in influenced how you use social media?
I don't think there's a difference like with how social media is used in Argentina and how it's used here. So I feel like it'd be the same whether I grew up here or there.
Okay. When you use social media, what are your motives?
I'm usually just really bored and just scrolling. I don't really pay attention.
Gotcha. So my interviewee's response related to my article because my article, like I said, was talking about like the differences in motivations for using social media between like someone of like American descent and someone with like a different descent. And she mostly was just talking about how it's not really that different where she grew up and how like it hasn't really like her culture hasn't really influenced her or like changed her motives in using social media. It's kind of like the same as ours, which in a way probably counters what the article says because the article was talking about more of the differences. And when I did the interview, it turned out that we had more similarities than differences. So that's probably like one way that it relates to the article. And an interesting aspect that we talked about was like just like the different motivations in general for like what people use social media for. Like for example, in the article they talked about people use social media for like entertainment, for like just like keeping up with the news, and then like that need for being like, I guess like social. I guess that makes kind of sense. And just a couple other things. And she was just talking about how like when she uses social media, how her main motive, I guess, is just because she's bored and she doesn't really have like any purpose. And I feel like a lot of people have like the same opinion, because I feel like we just pick up our phones and check social media without really having any intention. We're kind of just bored and we're like trying to keep up with what's happening and seeing if we miss anything, when honestly like nothing's really gone on. And you'll see like the occasional like news thing. And I think also that people like our age probably use social media to keep up with the news because we know that like we're not the ones to go out there and watch the news ourselves. But honestly, I think everyone's just so attached to social media now that we just pick up our phones for like no particular reason and just go look at stuff. And another thing about the article talked about was that okay. And then, on average, how much time do you spend on social media in a day, do you think?
Probably like 2 hours. I spend most of my time playing games.
Okay, all right. And last question is, out of all the social media outlets, which one do you think you use the most?
Instagram.
Instagram? Okay, thank you. We're all good.